Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Open Mic. I'm Mike Morse, your host. Super excited that you're here with us today. We have another sad story. Another exoneration happened, and our next guest, Kenneth Nixon, served 16 years in prison for a crime he absolutely did not commit. He was found guilty at the age of 18 of a firebombing in Detroit that killed a 10-year-old boy and an infant child. Nixon had an alibi in his girlfriend, but she was a co-defendant, so she couldn't help him. She couldn't testify. A 13-year-old boy was home and identified Nixon as the person responsible. And there was also a jailhouse snitch. And we've heard lots about jailhouse snitches who testified that Nixon confessed to the crime. Let's welcome Kenneth Nixon to Open Mic. Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's what you're going to hear on my podcast, Open Mic. I'm going to tell you things that most lawyers won't tell you. We expose the truth and bring you justice. I want you to go for the win in law and in life. You want an honest man, but you don't understand. I won't be here when. Hey, Ken.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you for being here. Where are you located right now? What city are you sitting in?
Detroit.
Awesome. As am I. So you've been out of prison for almost 8 months to the day. What was it like walking out of prison, getting your freedom back after 16 years?
It was absolutely euphoric. Like just the thought of being able to finally prove my innocence, was good. But to actually walk out of prison innocent and proven, absolutely proven innocent was just, mind blowing, life changing.
In the last 8 months, I mean, you were locked up for, I mean, the last 16 years, a lot has changed in our lives. A lot has changed in our worlds with technology and lots of different things. First, tell me some of the things that you missed. What kind of milestones did you miss when you were locked up for this crime that you did not commit?
Most importantly, my kids' lives. My youngest son is a standout football player. He just accepted his first college offer. There was a lot just with the kids that I missed out on that, you just can't get back. I won't ever get an opportunity to see those first day of schools, those ball games, those practices, just teaching him the basic stuff, how to, get a haircut and, just the basic father-son opportunities that, I'll never get an opportunity to see.
How many children did you have when you were convicted?
2.
And are they, did you get to see them when you were in prison?
Yes. My mom brought them regularly, a couple times a year. So, I saw them periodically throughout the year, as much as my mom possibly could.
That's not enough, but it's great that you kept in contact. Did you pick up where things left off? If are things going okay right now? Are things a little rocky? Give me a sense.
I mean, they're teenagers. They're 17 and 18 years old. So, I'm trying to find my place in their life without being too disruptive. We know how teenagers can be. They answer sometimes, they don't answer sometimes. So, we're just trying to figure it out. It's not, rocky or tumultuous at all. It's just, we're trying to learn each other.
I have two teenagers right now, and one in college, two in college, and I get it. And teenagers are interesting human beings. So let's talk about the case a little bit. In 2005, there's a firebombing on Charleston Street in Detroit. 20-month-old Tanya Vaughn and 10-year-old Raymond Vaughn were killed. Where were you when this happened?
I was at home. I was at home with my girlfriend, my son, her cousin, and his girlfriend at the time.
Were you, what time do you know, what time this crime happened?
Uh, Somewhere around midnight is when it eventually, what was printed in the documents.
You learned later on that it happened around midnight.
Yes, the police eventually told me, the time frame.
Later on, you found out that the crime happened around midnight. Do you have any, I mean, where was this house in relation to where you were?
It was a few streets over. I think it was exactly like 2 streets over from where I was living at the time.
And did you know these people? Did you know this family?
I knew the boyfriend, the mom and the boyfriend. The boyfriend was a lifelong friend of mine, Ronrico Simmons, and his girlfriend, Naomi Vaughn. I'd been around her, because of him. But the kids, I didn't know them directly. I'd seen them around, going over to visit him, not at this residence, at a previous residence. Um, I had no relationship with them, no conversation with them. So I didn't know them directly at all. No.
And why do you think the 13-year-old brother of the victims told the police he saw you, committing this crime?
Prior to this night, the former friend of mine, Enrico Simmons, he and I had a very, I guess you can say, violent and tumultuous relationship.
Mm,
I found out at some point that he and my son's mom, Latoya Crawford, were having an affair that I didn't know about.
mm.
That me finding knowledge of that, it caused a rift in our relationship. Um, we did some stupid things towards each other. Nobody was ever hurt, but there was a lot of, bickering back and forth. There was an ongoing issue there in the months leading up to this. However, just a few months prior to the fire happening, he and I had sort of come to an agreement that we would just stay out of each other's way. We just steer clear of each other, stop all of the nonsense. You stay away from me, I'll stay away from you. This is documented in, his statements. It's documented. He said it on the stand. We hadn't seen each other or been near each other in months, leading up to this. So when my name came up, naturally I was confused. But we would later find out that the police believed that Ron Rico was telling Brandon what to say. He was coaching him on what to say.
He said, my friend or my ex-friend, Ken Nixon, I want you to tell the police that you saw him outside the house. Something like that.
Yes. Yeah,
Wow.
something, yeah, paraphrasing in relation to that. Yes.
That's pretty harsh. And this young boy's transcripts show that he was inconsistent all along. I mean, he couldn't get a story straight.
Correct. It later became clear and apparent that it seems like every adult or somewhat of authority figure that this kid talked to, the story seemed to change. So, we weren't sure. We're still not sure if, he's just agreeing to what people are saying to him, or he's just regurgitating the information that's being given to him at the time. But with each new person that talked to him, the story evolved into something different each time.
And how did it come out at trial?
He Prior to trial, he gave 3 different statements to 3 different officers, and then at trial he somehow merged all 3 statements together to make one meaningful testimony at trial.
And did your lawyer do a good job poking holes and showing all the inconsistent statements to the jury and impeach him?
I believe so. I believe he did his best to, highlight the inconsistencies as much as possible. However, yeah, obviously it wasn't enough.
Yeah, the jury believed him. Now, your girlfriend, Latoya Crawford, was also charged. So
Yes.
she wasn't allowed to testify in your behalf. What was her charge?
She was charged with the exact same charges. We both were charged with 2 counts of felony murder 4 counts of attempted murder, and 1 count of arson.
And did the boy say he saw her too?
I think either his second or his third statement evolved into she was the driver. His first statement was he didn't see who was driving. He couldn't tell the difference, male or female. You know, he didn't know. And then all of a sudden, a few days later, second statement, different officer, and now she's the driver of the car.
Did he identify the proper car? I mean, your car?
He identified a car that was at the residence at the time. However, you know, he couldn't tell you which direction it was facing. Was it north? Was it south? You know, which were the headlights on or off? Was it pitch black? Was there street lights? He couldn't describe literally anything surrounding the car. You know, this, I mean, nobody, nobody didn't expect him not to know the car. I mean, we lived in the same area, so you know it was pretty obvious that he would know the car from seeing it in the neighborhood. But you know, when you asked, when the important pertinent questions were asked, you know, which direction was it facing? Did I get into the passenger side or the driver's side? You know, was there headlights on? Did I cross over the headlights? Were the street lights on at the time? He had no consistent answer for any of that.
Now, Latoya was acquitted. And is this your children's mother?
Yes.
Are you two still together?
Yes.
Wow, that's
No.
amazing. No or yes?
No.
You're not still together.
No,
Okay.
we're not still together.
Is she still part of your life, and she's still part of the kids' lives?
Yes, yes, very much so. She's very active, and she's my youngest son's mother. She's still very active, you know, in his life. We see each other every Friday at football games. We communicate, you know, not regularly, but we communicate a few times a week in relation to, you know, my son's upbringing. But for the most part, you know, we're cordial. We talk, we speak. You know, there's no animosity, there's no hard feelings there.
Great. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys are still making it as friendly as possible. So let's talk about the prosecutor, Patrick Muscat. You know, he's been a prosecutor on several of these exoneration cases, and you know, told the jury that you were angry with Ronrico Simmons. Occasionally, you stayed at the home that was eventually burned down, and that you had the previous relationship, and you wanted revenge. You kind of already touched on this, but when you first heard this, what was your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, you know, for me, it was just really, really hard to sit there and listen to, um, I mean, lies. There's just pure untruth to it. So it was hurtful, you know, in my head now that I'm a little older and I can process things a little differently. In that moment, you know, I felt like the people that were there to protect me were the people that were attacking me, you know, and it just made no sense whatsoever that, you know, all of it was based off of lies.
There was testimony at your trial that you had gasoline on your clothes, and this was a fire type case. Can you explain why you had fire on your clothes?
I just recently started a towing company, and you know, pretty much towing cars. It comes with, you know, liquid um, uh, petroleum-based products associated with automobiles. That was also disputed, you know, at trial. This was later determined not to be completely truth. One of the things that people don't really understand is with, as with arson cases, they brought a dog in to identify accelerants on things around the house, around the car. Well, what Patrick Muscat didn't tell the jury is that the dog is trained to detect petroleum based products. So that statement alone changes the entire landscape of the information because a dog doesn't know the difference between gasoline and perfume or motor oil and glue, for example. The dog doesn't know the difference. It's supposed to be, by law, technical terms, it's supposed to be verified by a laboratory. And once all of the items that were confiscated or taken from my possession or my home's possession, after they were tested, it turns out there was nothing there on any of them,
Hmm.
you know, and that became it should have become an issue when it didn't, because he told the jury that there was gasoline there when in reality there was nothing there.
And didn't a cop, Roger McGee, testify that his dog linked your clothes to the scene and that his dog is never wrong?
He definitely told the jury that his dog was 100% correct.
Well, that sounds nuts and objectionable, and I'm shocked the judge let that in. I didn't even ask you about your attorney during this trial. Were you satisfied with how he defended you or she defended you?
I think he did the best that he possibly could with the information that he had. I think maybe with more time, when I went through trial, Wayne County was under what was considered the rocket docket when they were literally pushing cases through as quickly as possible. From arrest to sentencing was less than 6 months. So, I don't think he had enough time to really do the appropriate investigation. But I mean, I 100% believe he did the best he could with what he had. And, he was confident in his ability to win. You know, turns out it just wasn't enough.
So, on open mic here, we've had several people who were wrongfully convicted, and one of the linchpins that convicted them was this jailhouse snitch, which is so problematic in so many different cases. And of course, your case had one too. The
Yes.
snitch said that you admitted to the firebombing. Um, Tell me, what do you know about this guy? And did he end up getting a deal for testifying against you, which is pretty common in all these cases?
Yes. The guy's name was Stanley January, and we now know that he was a career informant. Anytime he got in trouble, he found his way onto someone else's case. In my case in particular, not that I know of, he didn't get a deal in my case. However, he had a plea agreement to testify in another murder case that was pending at the exact same time. And he gave testimony in my case out of the goodness of his heart at that particular time. But the reality is, this guy was, I think, a fourth habitual bank robber looking at a life sentence. And his payment for testifying against me and the other guy that he signed the agreement was he would get 1 to 3 years. So he went from a life sentence to 12 to 36 months.
So outrageous. Did he ever come clean? Did he ever come out and say he lied?
Yes, he actually did. One of the big glaring lies that he told was that he had no knowledge of the case prior to talking to the police, which was untrue because that was a very high profile case. It was on every news station for probably weeks at a time. He testified to not seeing any news. In 2018, a group of journalism students from Medill Justice Project in Illinois took on my case as a class project. They came here. He was one of the people that they spoke to in 2018. Um, he admitted to them that he did have knowledge of the case because he'd seen it on the news prior to notifying the police. And if you look at, a lot of what he says at trial and the media coverage at the time, it pretty much parallels word for word.
Did these students did the students interview and that information they got out of it help you eventually get exonerated?
Yes, because I mean, it was the complete opposite of what he testified to. He testified that he'd never seen the news and he had no prior knowledge.
I love it.
Over a decade later, he's now saying he did see the news and he did know about the case prior to testifying.
I love it. And the snitch, you never met him before, right? You were never in a jail cell near him with him.
We were in a bullpen together upstairs in the Wayne County jail.
But did you talk to him? Did you talk to anybody about admitting or doing anything in this crime?
No, that's absolutely absurd. I had no reason to talk to this strange guy that I knew nothing about.
I think I knew the answer, but I felt like I could ask it anyway, for the record, as they say. So you had alibi witnesses. Your girlfriend didn't get to testify. That's a really interesting the fact that she was a co-defendant. Did you guys get tried together?
Yes, we sat in the same courtroom at the same defense table, two separate juries, same evidence, same witnesses.
So had she taken the stand on your behalf, they could have asked her questions that that her attorney didn't want her to answer, and she couldn't help you, and you couldn't help
Yes,
her. That's kind of
yes,
messed up.
yes, very much so.
Did either of you testify at trial?
No,
So September 21st, 2005, you were convicted. Your girlfriend was acquitted. I mean, I know you maintained your innocence for all these years, and during the trial, I mean, when you hear this guilty verdict, what's going on through your head?
I was crushed. I was devastated. As a kid, you're taught to believe that the system works the way that it's supposed to. I expected logic and truth to play itself out, and that just didn't happen. And then when the verdicts, our verdicts came out a few hours apart. Mine came out first with the guilty, and I was crushed. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I mean, I'm a kid. I was 19 years old. I had no knowledge of the penal system besides traffic tickets. I'd never really been in any trouble. And then when I found out that she was acquitted, I just knew that the system would somehow find a way to get it right. I didn't think it would take almost 16 years for it to happen, but
Mm.
I mean, it kind of, once she was found not guilty, it explodes your theory. If your theory is that she drove me to the crime scene and I committed this crime, if she was acquitted, then how did I get there?
It's not very consistent.
Exactly.
There's no consistency in that at all. It doesn't make any sense. And tell our listeners and viewers what you told the sentencing judge when he was about to sentence you.
I told him that I wanted him to know that he was about to sentence an innocent man to prison for the rest of my life for a crime that I didn't commit.
Gives me chills. So sorry this happened to you. How did the Justice Project at Northwestern University get involved?
They had an application process. I'd come across their name in something that I was reading, maybe a magazine or something, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote until eventually um, we were noticed. I was on the waiting list for about 6 years, and luck of the draw, my girlfriend at the time, Wendy Woods, they sent me a duplicate application to fill out, and I asked her to call and ask them if they wanted me to fill it out. And just so happened, the lady that answered the phone pulled my original application and started to look at it. And she had some questions, and she took them to the professor, and that's how they ended up accepting my case as a case project.
That's fabulous. Thank God for them.
Yes.
And you know, you already mentioned to us that they learned what the snitch told them. Um, did you guys not know about the deals that he had? And was that not presented at trial, or was it just the fact that he had lied on the stand and said he hadn't seen news when he actually did see the news? What was it? More than one piece of new information, or was there a couple?
There was actually a couple. The article that eventually came out that made front page news based off of their investigation also uncovered two memorandas that were withheld from us. The first one was from Detective Curtis Staples that was written 3 days after I was arrested. And in this memo, he is telling his lieutenant, which is Lieutenant James Tolbert, as we know, has been involved in quite a few other wrongful convictions. He's notifying his lieutenant that it's obvious that this kid is being coached by family members. That memorandum was written just, days after my arrest.
And the kid is
And
the kid who testified that you were the one in the car.
yes, Brandon Vaughn. That memo didn't surface until 2017, 2018, and they wrote about it. The second memo was a memo from Patrick Muscat, also to Lieutenant James Tolbert. And there's a section in that memo that, I mean, the memo literally starts off with, to be blunt, this case has serious problems. And, the second page of this memo also brings to Detective Tolbert's attention that there was a previous fire that involved the same family that was set by a jealous ex-boyfriend years prior. And none of this information was brought to our attention. My defense attorney didn't know. None of my appellate attorneys knew about this. We eventually, dug up the truth about it. And yes, there actually was a previous fire at another residence. And then hit the Stanley January, the jailhouse informant, that now he's admitting to knowing information prior to coming forward to testify. It all kind of culminated together to show, sort of a pattern there.
So how did the Brady violations come to light? How did these memos miraculously appear? Was it the students or something else happened?
Yes, the students, we'd eventually gotten a clean copy ourselves from just, I've been doing FOIA requests for years. It took me close to a decade to accumulate, all of the documents associated with my case. The memo from the prosecutor's office took us about 5 years and several different FOIA requests. They continuously refused to turn over the documents to us. Eventually, we got the first and the third page, and it still took us another couple of years to get the second page. In fact, I ended up having to hire a private attorney to do the FOIA request for me because they just refused to supply the information until we brought in a professional. And once we got it, the students, eventually did their own independent investigation, verified, where it came from, and that's how it became public information.
Infuriating. It's so infuriating to hear these stories. So Wayne County Integrity Unit got involved. The Cooley Law School Innocence Project also got involved. I assume Northwestern University got them involved.
I was actually on the waiting list for Cooley already. I'd been waiting for quite a few years, but once the newspaper article came out, I mean, I was front page news, and there was a big fuss about me being front page news with all of this information. And, Cooley came right on board right after, not long after that came about. There was a grant that allowed them to expand a little bit and work with the conviction integrity unit. And I was top of the list.
That's awesome. You described the two memos and the information they found with the jailhouse snitch. What was presented to the judge, Judge Bruce Morrow down in Wayne County, and what did Judge Morrow do?
I don't know specifically or personally what was presented to him. I understand that the conviction integrity unit verified the information. They did their own independent investigation, and they came to the conclusion that, I was innocent and that I had been wrongfully convicted. They presented their findings to the judge, and he agreed. February 18th of 2021, this year, he set a court date and he exonerated me.
One thing that's a little strange is that the victim's family is upset and didn't want you freed. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I don't really have any thoughts about it one way or other. I think that, they're entitled to their feelings. I think they're entitled to their emotions. However, I think they're misdirected. I think they're aiming their aggression at me when in reality, they should be talking to the police. They should be talking to the prosecutors that's lied to them for all these years. I'm a victim just like they are. The people that are truly responsible for misleading you all this time are the people you should be having a conversation with.
It's a really good point. I mean, the perpetrators, the criminals are still out there.
Yeah.
They never caught them.
No.
So listen, you're still a young man. What's in store for you?
I've been doing tons of advocacy work, just speaking out on behalf of other wrongfully convicted people and bringing awareness and visibility to the issue of wrongful convictions. I think there's a lot wrong with the system. And, who better to tell that story than a person that's been affected by it? This has affected me personally, and not just me. There's a group of us that have come together and we're speaking out about this, and we're doing the best that we can to make sure that people don't sweep this under the rug. We're trying as best as we possibly can to hold public officials accountable for the decisions that they're making. These decisions are affecting people's lives, and society needs to hear about it. So, we've come
Your
together as a
organization.
group. Say that again.
What's the name of your organization?
The National Organization of Exonerees.
Well, we'll definitely put that in our show notes. So if people want to contact you, donate, I assume you have a website, or we'll have one eventually.
Yes.
People will, people will want to reach out and help you. And, um, please keep in touch with us here at the Mike Morse Law Firm and Open Mike and myself, because I'm thrilled what happened to you 8 months ago, not before that. But I'm thrilled that you're out and you have your kids, and you're advocating, and everything sounds like it's going well. Thank God for the Conviction Integrity Unit at Wayne County. I think you're the 28th person that they freed for wrongful convictions. Is that the right number? 28?
Yes, I am number 28.
And they haven't been open that long.
No, just
I
I think a little over 3 years.
Valerie Newman and Kim Worthy, they're doing a good job clearing up cases that their own office prosecuted, which is just rare. And we've talked about it. And there's only do you know that there is only 100 conviction integrity units, and there are thousands of prosecutor offices across this country?
Yeah,
There's only
that's
100.
sad.
It's
That's
very
sad.
sad. Stories like yours, though, go a long way, hopefully, to convince others to open a conviction integrity unit, because there's a lot of people who are sitting in prisons for crime they didn't commit. And without these units really taking a hard look and joining forces with innocent projects, these people don't have a chance. And I can't say how happy I am for you, Kenneth. And I wish you the best of luck. And if there's anything we can ever do for you here, please reach out.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Kenneth Nixon, thank you for being here. Another story. I mean, I've said this before in open mic, but the similarities, a bad cop, a bad prosecutor, uh, uh, you know, jailhouse snitches. I mean, what a joke. What a racket that is. But thank God, the truth came out. I'm very happy that the truth came out. I'm happy that he's with his kids, and it's a happy ending. So thank you for being here on Open Mic, and please make sure you're a subscriber. Comment below. I'd love to hear what you thought about that episode. Not enough people comment. I read the comments, like the episode, share the episode, so we know we should do more. Okay. And there's lots more to hear on Open Mic. There's over 110 episodes, maybe even 120 at this point. And we'd love to hear from you. So thanks, and we'll see you soon.